I know. I don't want any like negativity, like to your job or your family. Like I get that this is a hard issue to speak up, publicly about.
It's amazing how hardly anybody knows about it. I never even heard of it. When the ER doctor first suggested that, thought to myself, yeah, this is just a doctor who's very anti-weed. And then I went home and I researched it. I'm like, oh my God, I have every single symptom they're describing. It's incredible.
Yeah. It's not what we're told. It's not
exactly. It's exactly opposite of what we're told.
Hi, and welcome to the Every Brain Matters podcast. I'm your host, Aubrey Adams, and director of Every Brain Matters, a community of advocacy, support, and science. I'm a former Colorado mom who sought refuge in Texas due to the harms marijuana caused my family and my community. I ask you to subscribe to our podcast and give us a good review as we share valuable, important information. Many people today have been told cannabis is healthy for them, and even in some cases use it medically. But recent data from emergency rooms across the nation have shown even casual use has a negative effect. And there are side effects that can be dangerous to your health, even deadly. In today's podcast, we continue to talk about Cannabinoid Hyperemesis syndrome, or CHS. CHS is a serious illness that is not well known, but everyone should be highly concerned because it's one of the leading illnesses related to marijuana. This is part 6 in our series as we talk to Laurie, a lady who suffered from CHS. Thank you, Laurie, for being here today on the Every Brain Matters podcast. And we understand that you've agreed to be interviewed about cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, but you want your face blurred. And so we will honor that and definitely do that because it is a difficult issue to talk about and you don't want any negativity coming back into your life. So we really appreciate your courage to raise awareness. And that's what the purpose of this podcast is, to say, yes, CHS is real, and yes, it can happen. And
it definitely is real.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your life prior to developing CHS.
You want to know when I started smoking marijuana?
Sure.
I was probably 13 or 14. I'm 55 now. So I smoked for a long time. Pretty much every day. Usually in the morning and then at night when I would get home from work and then before I went to bed. And it was just, me and my boyfriend, we've smoked for years. As a matter of fact, he is a doubter of that's what's wrong with me. He doesn't believe that we've been smoking together for so long. How come I'm sick now and I was never sick before? He's one of those people that just, he doesn't get it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that. And there's a lot of people that have shared with me the same that you've just shared with me, that they've been smoking weed for 30, 40 years and we're fine. And now all of a sudden they've developed the cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome.
Yeah, it happened to me. As a matter of fact, a year ago this month was the first episode I had. And I have never been so sick in my life. Such intense nausea, and I vomited nonstop for 7 days. The only thing that alleviated it was taking hot showers. I'd be in the shower for 20 minutes. I'd get out for 10 minutes. I'd be back in the shower. We had an astronomical water bill, and it was a week of time. I couldn't do anything. Couldn't go to work. I just laid in bed. I could literally do nothing. And I just wanted to die. I wanted to die. The pain, the nausea was so bad. I really, literally wanted to die. But I didn't know what was wrong with me. I went to the ER and they did all kinds of tests. They couldn't find anything wrong with me. They said, oh, you must have gastroenteritis. Go to your doctor for a follow-up. I went to my doctor for a follow-up. He says, yeah, you probably picked up a bug. You touched something, touched your eye and you got gastroenteritis. I said, all right, fine. So I continued to smoke, because how did I know that was what was wrong? And 6 weeks later, the same thing. And I went to the ER again because I was so dehydrated. And I admitted to the doctors that I smoke marijuana every day. And the ER doctor said to me, he says, "This is what you might have." And he didn't give me a name for it. He just said the cannabinoid receptors in my stomach were overacting or doing something when I was smoking marijuana. So I didn't believe him, but I went home and I looked it up, and I had every single symptom. And I'll tell you, I stopped smoking marijuana, and within days, I had terrible gastro problems for years, and I had no idea why. As soon as I stopped smoking marijuana, they all stopped. I don't know how graphic you want me to get, but I had very loose bowel movements, and I would have cramps every day. That became my normal. And there were some days when I would throw up into my trash can while I was sitting on the toilet. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And as soon as I stopped smoking marijuana, all of that stopped. It was like a miracle. It just all stopped.
So when the doctor told you or suggested, it sounded like he suggested,
He did. Mm-hmm.
that you might have CHS, or the cyclic vomiting caused by marijuana use, were you in denial at first about that?
No, not at all. I immediately started researching it. And as soon as I realized that I had every single one of those symptoms, how could it not be that? It had to be that. And I quit smoking. I stopped. I started again on, every now and then, and I got sick again this past March. And it's just, I have to realize that I can't smoke marijuana anymore. I can't. And that's just a fact. It's for some people, it helps with medical issues. For me and people like me, it causes so many problems. So I know I cannot smoke anymore. I just can't. And most of the people around me that do smoke, they respect that. They understand. Then if they're going to smoke, they're not going to smoke in front of me or around me. Except my boyfriend, because he's in denial. He doesn't believe that that's what's wrong with me. He just doesn't.
Do you get symptoms from secondhand smoke?
No, I don't. No.
That's good.
Thankfully, I don't.
I've interviewed a couple people that still, they can't be around it at all.
Really? That would be a problem. He would just have to smoke outside.
Yeah. So you were a marijuana user most of your life. You didn't have a problem. And then how long ago were you buying marijuana from like a legal market or anything like that? Or
no, all my smoking was done illegally. All my purchasing was done illegally.
And then you didn't start developing symptoms till the past few years.
Yeah, right. Yes. But I didn't connect the two. How would I connect that? I had no idea. Right. Nobody talks about this. It's nobody talks about it.
Right. I know, because we're told that marijuana helps with nausea. And
exactly.
In some, like, it's what they call, I heard a medical professional talk about, it's like biphasic. So low doses of marijuana are approved through the FDA, and a pill called Marinol. And they prescribe it to people that have cancer or like AIDS to decrease their nausea from their chemo treatments or whatever treatments they're going through, to boost their appetite. So yes, it does. I mean, in some cases it does in low doses. I suspect, and of course I can't prove this, but I think because since they've legalized and I'm not saying that you're getting legal products, but they've made marijuana so more potent now.
Oh, it's much more potent than when I was a kid. And I think that plays a big role in this. I think that if marijuana was the same as it was when I was 15, I don't think I'd be sick. I think it's just, and there's so many theories about what could be causing it, like the insecticides that they use. I heard one study or a theory was that it was the insecticides, but until they do more research, they're not going to know what causes it, and they're not going to know how to stop it. There needs to be research.
Well, we have you're the part 6 in our series of CHS.
Oh, really?
You are, yeah. And
Oh, wow.
I'm really grateful that because you and I have been playing phone tag for a while.
Mhm.
And I'm really grateful that you're willing to share your experience. They do know, I mean, the doctors do know that you overload your system with the cannabinoids that are the chemicals in the marijuana plant.
Right.
So it's just an overloading of the CNS system in the body. So like those receptor sites get kind of bound up because we make our own endocannabinoid chemicals for
Right.
that system. We don't necessarily need to consume them. It's just they're saying it just gets bound up, and then the only cure, I mean, they know the cure, it's to stop use.
Right.
And that's easier said than done for
It absolutely is.
you know,
It absolutely is. It's not easy. I equate it to people that go home from work and have a drink after work. It's the same, but I just have to learn a whole new way of, I mean, I've been smoking for 40 years. That's a long time, but I quit smoking cigarettes. So if I can quit smoking cigarettes, I can quit anything. I haven't had a cigarette in 17 years, and I smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. So if I can do that, then I can stop smoking marijuana.
Well, you are awesome. Are you getting support around you? Are you getting help?
I get some support just through Facebook and things. The people around me, they need to do more research on it so they can understand what it is I'm going through. I don't know I don't think they're all in as much denial as my boyfriend is, but like my son and my daughter and my daughter-in-law, they get it, and they're very respectful about it. They don't say, oh, that can't be what's wrong with you. You smoked for so long, like he does. But I don't know what the answer is. It's not easy to have people around you that don't understand what you're going through.
Well, and especially a significant other like
Right.
boyfriend. And
Right.
and I started speaking out about this in 2015, and I mean, people would just deny it flat out.
Oh, I never even heard of it in 2015. I didn't hear of it until 2020. No, I'd never heard of it. Never. They always tell you marijuana, it stops nausea. It's great for that. Yeah, it's not so but why, I want to know why some people develop it and some don't.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I know that.
It's a good question.
It's a very good question. I guess someday maybe we'll find out. I mean, I don't know if some people can if it's a tolerance level or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that is definitely something they need to research more. I know they found out about this syndrome in 2004 is when they
in Australia, right?
In Australia, yeah. And it was very rare condition, and now it's the number one reason why people end up in the ER from marijuana related issues. Yeah, in the state of Colorado. Yes, it's very common, and I know teens with it, and I know teens that are addicted to marijuana and have had a very difficult time quitting. It's so normalized now. I mean, I know it's been normalized for a while, but it's so much more potent and available and normalized. It's hard. These kids sometimes have to work really hard to get away from it.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To avoid it. So, and when they have a strong addiction, it's even harder. So I know a young man who ended up in treatment for it.
Really?
And one of the first times, I'll share with you, one of the first times I was really aware of how bad it was, I was in a dual diagnosis treatment center in Pueblo, Colorado, where I'm from. I'm kind of from ground zero of the legalization movement. And I had a speaker in this dual diagnosis program where we're trying to empower these young people, with their self-destructive behaviors, if they had addictions or whatever they were there. And this man came in and spoke about his experiences, his very powerful story. And then he invites the kids to come up and talk to him privately after, because usually they're going to get honest, they're going to share, they're going to reach out. And so we're just trying to support the kids. And a young lady came up to both of us and she was 14 years old. She was very thin and frail looking. And he had mentioned CHS, and she said, that's what I have. I have this allergy to marijuana. And I'm like, oh no. And she goes, yeah, I just got out of the hospital, but I'm still kind of vomiting still. And I'm not feeling really great. And I go, well, I'm so grateful that you're here getting help, and, that you can, continue to detox from the marijuana so you can feel better. And she's like, yeah, they're going to discharge me next week. And I'm like, oh, that's great. You get to go home and look, you've come a long way. And she goes, no, I'm scared to go home. And I'm thinking, well, why would you be scared to go home? I mean, I think you'd be scared to be hospitalized, right?
Right.
And she goes, no, both her parents were users, and they were denying it.
Mm-hmm.
And they smoked around her constantly. And she said she couldn't even be around it. She would get, she would still vomit, being a secondhand exposure. So I felt my heart just like stopped. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of this. Like I just thought you just quit using and blah, 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 blah. And life's joyful and you can go back to your normal life. And she was scared to death on how she was going to survive in her house because she was very frail and she was just skin and bones.
Wow.
And my heart just broke for her. I don't know whatever happened to her. I hope she found an environment where she could be healthy, or hopefully her parents realized that, hey, we can't do this around her. And
right, exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah, I lost the 3 episodes that I had. I lost 10 pounds each time. It was awful. 10 pounds in a week.
10 pounds in a week.
Yep.
So I know you said, I don't want to get into those gory details, but describe the first time you came down with the syndrome. Did you end up in the ER?
I did end up in the ER. The nausea was so intense. I couldn't take it, and I couldn't hold anything down. Gatorade was coming up as cold as it was going down. It was ridiculous. I couldn't take another second of it. So I went to the ER and they hydrated me and they gave me Zofran for the nausea, which worked great the first time. Worked great. I couldn't believe it. It's something to stop the nausea. It was wonderful. Nothing works. Nothing. Then the next time I had it, I went to the hospital twice in 24 hours. Nothing stops the nausea. Nothing they give you. Not a thing. And that's one of the things how you would know that, or so I've read, that it's CHS, is that none of the, I don't know the right word, the anti-nausea medication, none of it works. None of it. It worked the first time and I felt so great. It was great. I could sleep for a little while, but after that, nothing works. So I was only going to the hospital to get hydrated.
They didn't admit you then?
No, they didn't admit me. I wasn't that sick. Thankfully, I wasn't that sick, but I stayed. Also because I don't have health insurance. That's probably why they didn't admit me.
Yeah, that's probably the main reason, right? You
absolutely
needed to be hospitalized and put on an IV for a while. So
yeah, well, I was in the ER for a few hours, and the first time I went in, I used 2 bags of the saline solution to rehydrate me.
Oh my God.
I was very dehydrated. It was bad.
Did you have family support around you while you were?
Yes. My boyfriend was with me the whole time. He waited on me hand and foot. Not that I needed anything while I was laying in bed. I couldn't even lift my head up. My granddaughters would come in to see me when they would get here from after school, and I would just barely lift up my head to say hi to them, and it was awful. I took a video of myself so I could remind myself, this is what happens if you smoke marijuana.
Oh my goodness. If you're willing to share that with me, or did you experience the scromitting? Because you're kind of like, it's so severe vomiting that you're screaming while you're vomiting?
No, that I didn't experience, thank God. No. But the vomiting, it was terrible. It was awful. The nausea was unbelievable. I've never had such severe nausea in my life. It was awful.
It sounds like you just couldn't get relief,
I got no relief at all. None. The hot shower, I would lay in the shower, and my boyfriend came home and saw me in a ball in the fetal position on the shower floor. And I don't know why he doesn't believe that that's what I have, but yeah, he felt terrible. He said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're laying there." I was so weak, I couldn't stand. There's no way I could have stood. I just laid in the shower, and that's the only relief that I could get from the nausea, was the hot shower.
Wow. And how long would the episodes last?
It felt like they lasted nonstop for a solid week. I couldn't hold anything down. Water, Gatorade, nothing. Popsicles, nothing.
And then when the ER physician said, hey, it might be the marijuana, you decided to quit at that point. And then
I did.
How long did it take for you to start feeling, get some relief after you quit?
A couple of days, within a very short period of time.
Good.
Although when I was going through the episodes, I wasn't smoking, so I was already detoxing anyway. But then once I figured out that's probably what I have, when I did the research, I stopped. And yeah, within a couple of days, I felt good. I mean, I was still very weak because I hadn't eaten in a week, but I felt a lot better. And then everything, my gastro problems disappeared, and I started having normal bowel movements. And I was like, wow, this is great. First time in years. Who knew this is what my problem was?
Oh my goodness. How long do you think you suffered with CHS before you realized it was marijuana?
I want to say probably a good 3 or 4 years. Probably.
Long time.
Yeah.
Was it, do you work? Was it affecting your day-to-day life?
I do work. I work a full-time job. It never affected me until I had my first episode, because I would go to work. I was okay. Yeah. I just didn't feel 100%, and I just couldn't quite put my finger on. I knew there was something wrong. I knew what I was experiencing was not normal, but I didn't have health insurance. What was I going to do? I can't afford to go to a gastroenterologist and get all kinds of tests that wouldn't tell him what was wrong with me anyway. So I basically suffered in silence until I had my first episode.
I'm so sorry you suffered in silence, because you're so right. People don't talk about this. I mean, I know people are talking about it more, but I know there's like Facebook support groups and, yes, and online support groups. And I think one has like over 12,000 members now.
I believe it.
I mean, it's just, yeah. And I remember when I first started joining those groups, there was only like a couple hundred, you know.
Really?
Oh yeah. There was like 300. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, people are talking about this more, and the fact that you've come forward and you're talking about it is gonna even raise more awareness. So,
well, if my story can make one person realize, wow, that's what's wrong with me, and make them realize that that's the problem, and have them stop smoking marijuana and realize that they can feel normal again without the marijuana, I that would be great. I would love to be able to help somebody like that, because it's not a pleasant thing to go through, and it's not something that you share with people, especially with the issues that how it affected me before I had my episode. Who was I going to talk to about that? You know?
Exactly.
I had nobody, and I got to say this too. My mother wasn't very supportive when I first told her. I was very, very open with my mother. She knows that I smoked marijuana. And when I told her that that's what was wrong with me and I was going to quit smoking, she laughed.
She laughed at you.
She laughed. Because she didn't believe that I could really, because I enjoyed it. She didn't believe that I would quit. And I told her that it really, really hurt. I come from a family of addicts. My sister is an alcoholic and has it so bad that she has pancreatitis because of it. And she's had to go to the hospital she doesn't drink anymore, thankfully, because the doctor told her, if you take another drink, you will die. So I mean, I come from a family of addicts. Both of my brothers were addicts. So it was inevitable, but to have her laugh at me, it really hurt my feelings. I was kind of blown away.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry that happened. And I think that's, I mean, your message is very powerful in itself, but the fact that you got that reaction from your mom, It's a good message for family members out there. If somebody's coming to you, regardless of what your opinion is about their marijuana use or whatever your opinion is about policies or anything like that.
Right.
It's like if somebody's sick and they're saying, hey, I think it's the marijuana, I want to quit. I mean, give some support,
Right.
Support them where they're at, regardless if you agree or disagree with them. And
absolutely.
I know there's Marijuana Anonymous online meetings for people that are needing support to quit.
Really?
There is. And then we've started, we didn't start it, but there are Maranon meetings for family members, that can understand what the person's going through, regardless if you have an addiction or not. This is a consequence of use like CHS, and you have family members that are not being supportive to you. We have meetings for those family members so they don't shame and blame and, get laughed at.
Right.
That hurts my heart. But I appreciate
it upset me pretty. At first it made me really, really angry. And then I was really hurt because it's my mom, that's not the reaction I expected from my mother.
Was she just upset with your marijuana use
I think
all these
that,
years?
No, I don't think so. I'm not really sure. And I asked her why she laughed, and she wasn't sure. She doesn't know why she laughed. She has a difficult time expressing her feelings. So I don't know if maybe that was it, but it's not really what I needed when I told her I was going to try to quit smoking.
What is your relationship like with her now that you've quit?
I've worked towards a better relationship with my mother because she's not going to be here forever, and she's the only mother I have.
Yeah.
And she's 80 years old, and I have to keep reminding myself of that. She's not 50 and I'm not 30. She's 80. She's an older woman. So we've healed our relationship. We've gotten past that because we talked about it, and we have a pretty strong relationship now.
Oh, that's great. That's so good to hear. Well, Laurie, what a powerful testimony you have.
Well, thank you, Aubrey. I appreciate that.
I'm so glad you're feeling better. I'm so glad your relationships are better. I'm sorry your boyfriend still is in denial, but hey, that's his deal, right? And
absolutely. Yeah. And the older I get, the more I realize I don't have any control over what other people think or feel. I can only control myself.
Yeah. Well, we support you at Every Brain Matters. We know it's true. We have loved ones who've experienced it, and we have people that have experienced it themselves too. So that's why we're doing these podcasts now. So it's not such a taboo topic, and it's easier to talk about and accept. Mm-hmm. And so we can just support everybody who's experiencing this. And so to know that there is a cure to stop use, which is easier said than done.
Indeed.
but like you said, I mean, even when you shared you quit smoking cigarettes, you're like, if I can do that, I can quit smoking marijuana.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of strength and a lot of hope, Laurie. So thank you.
Thank you. I feel pretty strong. I'm much stronger than I used to be. That's for sure.
Awesome. What is your one message to the general public about CHS and
become more aware of it? Do some research. Be empathetic to people like me that have this illness, whether you believe it exists or not. Do some research. It exists. It's a real thing. And if you need help to quit smoking, then get some help to quit smoking. Yes. There's no shame in asking for help.
What is your message to family members that might have a loved one suffering from CHS?
Do some research. Don't be supportive. Be there for that person. Don't ridicule and don't doubt. Be supportive. I think that if my boyfriend would do some research on it and read about it, he might understand more what I'm going through instead of just watching what I'm going through. I think if people would read about it and do some research, I think that they would understand better what their family members are dealing with.
Thank you, Laurie, for sharing your experience with CHS. We've learned a lot, and we're so glad you're feeling better. Please subscribe to our Every Brain Matters podcast as we share important and valuable information related to marijuana. Our next series will be on marijuana impaired driving, where my colleague and friend, Corinne Gasper, will host a series of conversations with experts and other families who have lost their loved ones to marijuana impaired driving. She has a powerful story and a powerful message that everyone needs to hear. So hit that subscribe button, give us a good review, and share these conversations. Until next time, remember, marijuana can cost you more than money. It can cost you your health and your life. Thank you.